Thank you very much, Mr. Nussbaum. I would invite Greg Macdougall to come to the front. Mr. Macdougall.
Right. Well, thank you for this opportunity. As mentioned, this is unceded Algonquin territory, and this question has to do with that, with LeBreton and also with the Zibi development. As people have noted, not here, but we need more than just acknowledgement of the land. We need to actually have that followed by action. So just to back up, 1950, the Graeber report that founded the NCC. This is a quote: "The restoration of the Chaudiere Islands to their primitive beauty and wilderness is perhaps the theme of greatest importance." So this is in the founding document of the NCC. Fast forward to today, where they're building condos on it right now. As mentioned, I'm here not on behalf of the Algonquin people, but I'm speaking to the issues that affect them. This is considered a sacred site, the waterfalls, the islands. It's been dammed for 100 years, so we don't see the majesty of it. But it's a constitutional issue, it's an international issue with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. The TRC comments on this kind of thing, and most recently we have an inquiry saying there's genocide happening here, the sum total of all these practices of colonialism. So my first question is about the consultation, which other people are talking about. There's a lack of consultation. The Algonquin chiefs had to fight really hard, and only in 2016, I think it was, the NCC started to meet on consultations of development that started to be proposed in 2013. 9 of the 10 Algonquin chiefs were against the development. You've been having meetings every 3-4 months. So I just want to play this. So first of all, in 2016, APTN interviewed the Grand Chief of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation Tribal Council, which is 6 of the communities, and also Kirby White Duck, the only chief in favor of the Zibi development, and they're both saying the consultation is inadequate. Algonquin chiefs were meeting with the NCC on
Yeah, we're involved in that.
So that's
the ongoing development in the area, and we don't necessarily agree what they're doing. They just go ahead and do it. We're told after, oh, well, you know, we've tried meeting with you, you've been consulted. And there's no accommodation ever offered.
So it's the same thing, what you're saying is information, not consultation?
Well, to me, it's information.
Yeah.
It's not consultation and accommodation. It's far from what it should be in our view.
And it's like, I think it was an official transfer of land in December.
It's always, you know, like after the fact, eh? We've never had any substantive discussion on transfers, you know, with them saying, here's what we're doing. We're transferring this. What do you think, you know? How is this going to, how is this, do we have your free, prior, and informed consent?
So basically, that's the issue, is that if this consultation is inadequate and you've gone ahead with this project at a sacred site, very sacred site, like for kind of all across the country, different nations, so what are you going to do about it?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. I think I'm going to start by talking about LeBreton because that was mentioned, and that's something that I know a little bit about because we're engaged in that right now. And I think it's fair to say that before I arrived, there had been actually extensive outreach, meetings, approaches with the Algonquin Nation to talk about strategies for LeBreton accommodation and concrete measures to recognize the Algonquin claim on those lands under the previous process. Obviously, that didn't work out, and so although we're relaunching the process in a slightly different way, our commitment to Algonquin consultation and accommodation remains. I've had a chance in the 4 months that I've been on the job to visit both Kitigan Zibi and Pikwakanagan, and I've met with the chiefs and the tribal councils, and we're in fact having a meeting with the tribal chiefs at the end of June. And so we're really building on the momentum of the discussion and the consultation we had to make sure that early on in this relaunch process, we have a concrete idea of what specific accommodation steps we can take, because we take that responsibility very, very seriously. Separate and apart from Le Breton and the consultation process, the NCC, I would argue, has been ahead of the curve on a lot of issues. We have an Indigenous liaison employee who we've had employed for 10 years at the NCC, who's given us great advice, perspectives, and really opportunities for exchange. We are working very hard on a set-aside process for Victoria Island, a very, very important site for the Algonquin people. And because of the problems we're having with remediation, we thought it was very, very important to include Algonquin contractors and peoples and workers early on in that process. Through the naming policy of the NCC and really ensuring that we're consulting Algonquins early on in terms of when we have an opportunity to name or rename a site or place. So I guess in summary, in the 4 months I've been here, I've seen a very strong commitment to the idea of recognizing, consulting, accommodating Algonquin interests. And I know the board feels very, very strongly about that as well. So the commitment is real and the commitment is there.
I just
Thank
want
you.
to clarify, because I didn't say who those voices were. So one was Jean-Guy White Duck, who was the chief of
Okay.
Zibi up until recently. The second was Harry St. Dennis, who was the chief of Wolf Lake, and he passed away in November. I do want to note, I don't think you mentioned the sacred site, the islands, the waterfalls at all in your response. I think that says something too.
Thank you very much, Mr. McDougall. We do have